Welcome back to Justin Talks Villa. Thank you very much for joining me again for another interesting show. Well, I think it's interesting anyway. If you are new, thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoy the show. If you enjoy it, please drop me a follow, subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, and just get involved in the comment section. If you are a regular, thank you very much for coming back. And once again, thank you everybody for your support so far. It has been absolutely incredible. I can't explain it, honestly. It's been an absolute whirlwind few weeks. What has happened since I started this channel is absolutely insane. I had a mad week last week, absolutely mad. And over the weekend, I think it caught up with me a little bit. But yes, I am back, ready to go. Got some really interesting stuff to show you today. So the episode today is going to be split into two halves. Firstly, the transfer window opened yesterday. So that's the 1st of June for this little bit of a first to the 10th transfer window for the Club World Cup, which is just insane. I'm just not a fan of it at all. I think it's just another way of shoehorning in a tournament for the elite clubs to get invited. I mean, the £100 million prize money, it's just insane when you think that the Champions League, that's what you get for getting in the Champions League and doing really well in that. So it's just another way to try and make the richest clubs richer. I don't know. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. Anyway, so transfer window is open, and I'm just going to have a quick look and give my opinions on our squad, where I think we're at, what I think we're going to do, and the players that are potentially on the chopping block, the players I think that just we don't want to see go. If you saw my appearance on the overlap, I was pretty unanimous in my when I was asked, about who I think would go. I think I said that nobody's off the table, and I think I do believe that. I think if they decided that an offer was too good and it benefited the club, I think they would listen to that on anybody. There's obviously players they do not want to sell, and in an ideal world, they will get rid of the players they feel that they're just ready to move on, or just haven't stepped up, or they need upgrading on. So that's the way I think they will attack it this summer. But obviously, you can only sell a player if you get offers in. So if the offers don't come in for those players and you get offers for players you don't want to sell, you have to make tough decisions, as we saw last summer with Douglas Luiz moving on and Moussa Diaby. So, yeah, I'll go through that. I'll give you 4 youth team players from the 21s, because I've seen quite a lot of those who I think could be going on pre-season tours with us and ones to watch out for. I will also go over all of our loan players that are currently out and give opinions on what I think we'll do with all of them. We've got a lot of players to get through this summer, and it is not an easy task to work your way through who stays, who goes, what do you do with this player. I think a lot of the younger players and the loan players, some of them will come back and go off with the first team on the tour to have another look at them, and then decisions will be made on them. So overall, I think it's a really interesting summer, and it's going to be packed full of comings and goings and interesting things happening. So it's never a dull minute being a Villa fan or Villa content creator. I was thinking, what am I going to do all summer? But there'll always be lots to do. I've got quite a few things coming up on the channel as well, with more interviews coming. I've put the feelers out for quite a few interesting ones. So yeah, look out for the channel. So subscribe if you haven't already. So I'm just going to talk a little bit now about the way I think Villa structure our current way of working within these windows. If you haven't already, go and listen to my interview with Kieran Maguire that came out last week. That was absolutely fascinating. I've had a fantastic response to that. So if you haven't seen that video already, I'll put the link up here right now, and you can go and watch that. And he sort of, whilst it can never be 100%, he sort of got to the point where he didn't think we was in a really bad place. We definitely have to sell. We definitely have to raise funds. And he was in and around the £20 million mark by the end of June, which is the cutoff for the financials that have to be done by then to make sure we're not in any trouble. And but I think 20 million is about right. But I see us selling a lot more players worth more than a lot than that. I can't even get my words out. So I think we'll be losing a more value, if you like, so maybe up to the 50, 60 million pounds mark. And the reason for that is to allow us that wiggle room to go and get the players we need to improve the squad. Now, we all know our wages are very, very high to turnover, to revenue. So we're at over 90% wages to revenue. And I think the more I think about this, the more I think this is a strategy we've employed. And what I mean by that is we max out our wages. And the reason we max out our wages is because we have to get the quality of player in to allow Unai at the start of every year to attack the season, to give us the best possible chance of finishing as high as we can and going as deep in cup competitions as we can. So to attract the best possible quality of player, you have to offer very good wages. So we've done really, really well in the free transfer market. We've already seen the striker sign on the free already, and there's one or two mooted ones that we might see come 1st of July. I also will say right now, I don't see any incomings until the 1st of July to make sure that they're on next year's books. So all the outgoings are going to happen in June, and then we'll start seeing incomings in July. So, yeah, I think we max out our wages. I think we put ourselves in a position where we can offer players a really good salary, an incentive to come and play for Villa. And then at the end of each season, we've seen the last two seasons, well, last season especially, and this season, we then have to just look at all the figures, see where we're at, and then decide what we have to do to make sure we are fully compliant with all the rules and regulations, whilst in the background continually try to grow our revenue to a point where we don't have to do this every summer. We saw a lot of money raised last year, a lot of comings and goings, these sort of dual deals with other clubs. We did one with Everton, didn't we, with Dobbin and the young Irabunum going the other way, and a couple of other clubs we did that with, with Ealing Jr. and Baronchella from Juventus. So we saw a lot of these deals happening last year, and we probably will see them again this year. So that's where I'm roughly seeing where we are with our strategy. So max out wages, try and get one or two really good loans in, free transfers in, and then go and get the players we want, and then maybe one or two good loans at the end of the window to supplement any spaces we have that we feel like we need to fill. Right. Enough of that. Let's get on with looking at the squad. So we'll go, obviously, with goalkeepers first. I just need to take this off so you can see everything. Right. As we all know, lots of speculation over Emi Martinez. He's one definitely, I think, that potentially could be looked at to go. I don't think he's high on the list. We'll get on to Leon Bailey in a minute. There's been big rumours that he's off to Saudi for 25 million. And if that's the case, we're going to be more or less okay, hopefully based on projections, and we never know 100%. But yeah, I think Martinez, I'd like to think he's going to stay. I think my gut, as it stands right now, is Emi Martinez stays at Villa for next season. That's what I think. Robin Olsen, obviously, he's left already. Oliver Zeke, he's a good young keeper, but we're going to need more depth. So we're going to have to bring in another keeper at least as a backup. We'll move on to Gauchi when I go through all the loan players as well. I'm fully aware that he's on our books and he's been out on loan, but he's going to be talked about with the loan section. So Martinez stays for me currently, unless I think the only reason he goes if we get an absolutely ridiculous offer for him. So by that, I mean, if Saudi come in with 100 million, I think we'd be mad not to sell, So that's just my opinion. So, yeah, we'd have to take a massive, massive offer. So, moving on to defenders. Cash, Disasi, Concert and Mings in this section. So, Matty Cash, divisive figure. Lots of Villa fans not happy with Matty Cash. I actually felt as the season wore on, he got better and better, and he added a lot more to his game. And then, unfortunately, in that last game, he had a bit of a stinker, didn't he? And obviously, as that's the last game, people tend to remember it very, very much so. He's one that I think a lot of fans wouldn't be upset to see moved on, but we haven't really got a lot of depth there anyway. So I think I'd put Cash in the possibly move on question mark, depending on the quality of right back we could get in. I think we do need to add to this area, but I think they're going to look at it in over all of the players we've currently got, because we've got Garcia, and as I'll come on to when I talk about the 4 potential young players to come into the squad, I think there's a potential we could bring in one of the younger players as well. So yeah, Cash question mark over. Disasi, I think he goes back. I think he's done pretty well since he came in. I think he's had some really good games. Could we make that permanent? Do we need an extra central defender? I think we probably do permanently. So I think that's one they may look at if they could get it for the right price. I think that's what Disasi would mean to me. If we could get the deal done at a fee that's agreeable to the club and wages that are agreeable, then potentially we could revisit that one a bit later in the window. Konsa, untouchable for me. I think, again, it would take a monumental offer to prize him away from Villa. Tyrone Mings, I think he's got a year left in his contract. I'd love to see him get another contract. I think it'd be absolute madness to let him go with everything he's done for Villa. He's come back from an absolutely another horrific injury. And he's always put his heart and soul into the club. And I think it's really important to keep players like him around the dressing room, around the squad. He is a very good professional. He puts everything into the club. He's lovely, lovely bloke. And I just think currently he's worth at least another season at the Villa. We don't want to see huge amount of upheavals. We're going to see a few players leave and go. But for me at the moment, if you could add another central defender in the mix that's a quality player, then with him, Konsa, Pau and that player, I think we'd have a good 4 to go into next season. So Pau is in this section, obviously. So I don't think Pau goes. He's probably another untouchable one. But again, every player's got the price, so we don't know. Left back, another interesting position this summer that's going to have to be dealt with. Obviously, Ian Maatsen came in. He was the left back of the Champions League campaign the season before. Lots and lots of high hopes for him. Really good attacking left back. Very interesting player. A lot of people expected him to come in, I think, and probably oust Lucas Digne fairly early in the season. And then Lucas Digne would just basically end up leaving. And I think what happened is Lucas Digne's performances just were absolutely outstanding for the majority of the season, and Ian Maatsen could not get in the team. And Lucas Digne's been brilliant this season on the whole. I think he's been really, really good. Towards the end of the season, we did see that transition over to Ian Maatsen at left back, and he did have the shirt at the end of the season. What does that mean for Lucas Digne? Well, Lucas Digne's big issue for me is his wages. He's on big wages at Villa. So I think he's a player that potentially could be leaving us this summer. Again, I don't think it would take a huge transfer fee, because I think he would try and recoup a lot of his wages should he move somewhere else, which would be difficult for a club to take on a big fee and his wages. So they'd have to come to some kind of agreement there, I feel. But yes, I think Lucas Digne could be one that's leaving us this summer. So what have we got next? We've got Andreas Garcia, another really, really interesting player. Didn't know a lot about him, obviously, when he came in. But I think overall he's had a really, really good spell at Villa. And I think he's been really important to us to come in and supplement that right-back slot. In fact, at points when he came in, when he started 1 or 2 games, I genuinely thought he was such a good player. He would easily oust Matty Cash and he would become our permanent right back. But we haven't seen him towards the end of the season. He hasn't played a lot of minutes. Would that mean that maybe he might find a loan next season? I don't know. I think at the moment, with question marks over Matty Cash, we can't replace every single position. So I think it probably depends on what happens with Matty Cash. If Cash leaves, we're going to have to bring a right back in. And I think Garcia then would probably stick around and probably be our backup right back. So that'll be an interesting one to have a conversation with over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So yes, moving on. Interesting couple here. Lamar Bogard started the season in the 21s, ended the season as a decent first team prospect. He's had some really, really good players. He set a really high standard in 2 or 3 of those games, and he pushed himself into the position where I think people saw him as a bona fide first teamer and a player that can play multiple positions, which Unai Emery loves. We didn't get many minutes towards the end of the season when we had everybody fit. So again, that's going to be an interesting one, what we do with him. Now, this could be something we see a lot of over the next few years. Young players coming into the first team, playing really well, raising their profile to a position where other clubs start to look at them. And then the manager has to make that decision whether he feels the longevity of his career, is it going to reach a level where he will be a genuine first teamer at Villa in the first 11. Now, if he doesn't feel that's the case and his profile has risen to the point where I think Bogarde is now, I think Bogarde could potentially leave for a half-decent fee this summer to somebody. I know Ajax was sort of linked with him. So if you could get sort of 10 to 20 million pounds for him in the market, a player of his age that's had a decent little run at Villa at times, played in Champions League as well, you know, this is a sort of way we could be doing to raise more money. So that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. Courtney Hawes. I feel a bit sorry for Courtney Hawes. I think he's had a bit of a dreadful time at Villa. His injury has been apparently really bad. But I saw him make his comeback in the 21s. And from everything I saw, he's really well liked. He's a really nice guy. Yes, he hasn't been anywhere near the first team. He hasn't been in any of the social media stuff for a very, very, very long time. He's become the forgotten man of Villa. But what I hope with Courtney Hawes is that he gets released, he's fit, hopefully he's fully fit now, and he gets a decent club, probably in championship level, and he goes and enjoys the rest of his career. He's had moments at Villa when he's, done really well, and we'll never forget the winner away at Old Trafford. So I'd just like to take my opportunity to thank Courtney Hawes for all the efforts he's put in over the years at Villa, and I wish him all the very best in his career and wherever he goes to next. So, moving on to midfielders. Ross Barkley was a very interesting acquisition last summer. One I was 100% all over. I really wanted it to happen. I was really pleased when he came in. And I think for the money, he's been pretty good. He hasn't pulled up massive amounts of trees, but when he played, especially earlier in the season, pre-injury, I think he added quite a lot of quality into the midfield. And I've got to be honest, towards the end of the season, when he had a couple of cameos off the bench, he looked really, really sharp. So I think he's another interesting one. Again, we need squad players. We need players that can come in and play if we have problems with injuries or in other games like cup competitions. So I would be tempted to keep Ross Barkley around for the next season at least. John McGinn's not going anywhere. Put that one out there. Now, Youri Tielemans, double player of the year, would take a monumental offer to offload Youri Tielemans. I mean, I probably wouldn't take anything less than 70 or 80 million minimum for him based on what he's had. And he's only 27, so he's in the peak years of his career. So if anybody thinks that's ridiculous, then I don't care. I think he's that good. He's been that good this season. He's one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, and hopefully will only just either stay where he's at or get better next season. Poor old Donyell Malen hasn't had much luck since he's come into Villa. He got left out of the Champions League squad, which was reported that he wasn't too happy. And I can understand that. He was the permanent signing and loan players got put in ahead of him into the Champions League squad. But I see next season as the rebirth of Donyell Malen. His proper start to Villa. He's settled in the area. He's settled at the club. He seems to be pretty well liked. So all I see now for him is that he will have a really good pre-season, hopefully kick on next year and become a very important part of our squad. The interesting for this, Asensio. Oof, what do we do with Asensio? It's gone a bit quiet about the rumours of him signing permanently. I think the fee was mooted to be around 15 million. I don't think it's a bad fee, to be honest. My worry with Asensio is his form did drop off a bit, especially after Rashford stopped playing on the left-hand side. That link up with Rashford on the left and Asensio in the 10 was so good. I mean, Asensio just scoring goals for fun at that point. And at that point, I think you'd have snatched the hands off for 15 million for him. I don't know. I think it's one they will look at depending on what else is available around, and it's one we possibly could revisit if we need to. He knows all about the club now. I think he's pretty settled here. He's enjoyed his time here. Onana, right. Rumours of Saudi again for Onana. I mean, again, I think we haven't seen the best of Onana this season. I think towards the end of the season, when he started playing in that sort of rampaging role, he looked really, really good. I don't think I'd like to see him leave, if I'm brutally honest. Again, massive fee, possibly that would help rebuild the squad and strengthen areas that we need to. So we'll keep an eye on that one. I don't think leaving or staying isn't off the table with him. Morgan Rogers, probably the most untouchable player in the squad. 100% probably would take 200 million to even consider selling him, which isn't going to happen. So he doesn't go anywhere. Leon Bailey, I fear this is the summer we say goodbye to the Jamaican winger. He's had some great moments at Aston Villa. He had a brilliant season last season, season before last, should I say now. But I think it's time to wave goodbye to him. Just too inconsistent, hasn't really shown anything like the form he showed the season before. So I think if we can get the reported £25 million for him, that probably will go a long way to sorting out any issues with FFP this summer. So he could single-handedly get us out of that issue. So I think we say goodbye to Leon Bailey. Right, we'll start with Boubacar Kamara. He still hasn't signed his contract that apparently he was close to signing a fair while ago now. Now, is that an issue? I hope not. I don't think it will be. I think he's maybe just making sure that everything is okay for next season. That's my praying that's the case, that he wants reassuring that next season we're going to have a good squad and we can go on all fronts again, because I'd hate to lose Boubacar Kamara. But if he does refuse, I've no idea whether this even a possibility, but if he does refuse to sign a new deal and he shows signs of wanting to get out, then we would get a big fee for Boubacar Kamara. So I hope he doesn't go. I hope he signs his new deal because he's such an important player for us. Jacob Ramsey, oh dear. I'm massively on the fence with Jacob Ramsey. I think potential and ceiling for Jacob Ramsey is very, very high. Again, the season before last, he was absolutely magnificent, and we were talking about potentially getting an England call-up. Again, through injuries and lack of form, he's dropped off a bit this season. We all know the emotional attachment to Jacob Ramsey, and we all know that if we did move him on for a decent fee as an academy player, we would get huge value for him on the books. I don't know. Again, this is another one that potentially, if the right money came in, I think there might be a deal to be done there. But we'll have to see what happens over the next few weeks. Again, I don't think I'd like to see either of these leave, to be honest. Forwards-wise, Marcus Rashford has gone. He's departed. If I'm brutally honest, I don't see that one happening. I don't see him coming back. I think we'd have to have a strange circumstances to bring him back. I think Watkins would have to leave, and probably other targets, and probably not be able to get over the line for Rashford to be back on the table of coming back in. That's my gut instinct. Ollie Watkins, right. I've thought long and hard about the Ollie Watkins scenario. I know for a fact he was not happy. He had his nose put out quite a bit by the Marcus Rashford situation, starting in the important games. In the Champions League especially. So I sort of understand that he probably was, and he's a little bit annoyed and frustrated about how he's deemed to be treated in those games. Being as he's been such an important player for us and almost the only name as a centre forward for us, breaking the record this year, fantastic. So what I'm hoping for, I think, if I'm honest now, is Rashford has now left. We've signed this young striker in. There seems to be sort of a Duran-esque signing. I want Ollie Watkins to stay another season at least. That's my thinking as it stands. Unless you can go out and buy a world-class striker. And I don't think the budget's there at the moment to do that, and especially not playing Champions League football. While Europa League will be fantastic, I'm looking forward to it. I think I think I want Ollie Watkins to start the season with Villa next year. That's where I'm at currently. Right. So that's me talking about the squad and where I'm at with all them. Now I'm going to just move on to, I don't want to make this a hugely long episode, but I'm going to move on to 4 players now who I think will make the pre-season tours with Villa. So just move that one away. Right. Ben Broggio, he's been injured towards the end of the season, but I saw enough of him to probably mean that he will hopefully be pushing that first team over the course of the pre-season. Jamaldine Jamoaloba, really good player. One I've got really high hopes for. I think we're going to see him in the pre-season and maybe pushing the first team squad. He's already made the first team bench a few times. Tristan Rowe. Now, this lad, right back, really, really impressed with him, especially in the Youth Cup final and the league games where we won the league. Very, very, very good right back. And I think he could be going on the pre-season tour. We've talked about Matty Cash and Andres Garcia, but I think Rowe has the potential to push both of them throughout the course of next season. We could even see him go out on a loan. I think he would probably benefit him a lot to go out on loan. So he's one to look out for. Now, Rory Wilson, another very, very interesting player. I mean, he basically was a huge prospect when he came in, scored goals for fun in our youth teams, and then his deal came up towards the end. Villa approached him with a new deal. He basically stalled because I think he felt his pathway to the first team was blocked and he didn't see a way of getting there after scoring so many goals. He then got sort of removed from the playing side of the 21s for a long time, and then something changed. I don't know what it was. Maybe the manager spoke to him and said, look, you know, I think you're a good player and I think there's a potential you could push through next season. So the deadlock was broken, the deal was signed, and he reintegrated back into the 21s. He had an injury towards the end of the season. So that's going to be interesting to see what they do with Rory Wilson next year. I think he'll probably go out on loan like we saw with Louis Barry. So, these are 4 I think it's definitely worth keeping an eye on for next season. Right. Talking about Louis Barry, what do we do with Louis Barry? This is a really, really interesting one. Signed him as a young kid. I think he was about 17 when he came to Villa after leaving Albion to go to Barcelona. Then we've nicked him back from Barcelona. Huge prospect, hugely rated and ranked, one of the top strikers in the country from 17 onwards. And he hasn't really pushed the first team enough. This goal, obviously, was the pinnacle of his time at Villa so far in the FA Cup when we played the kids against Liverpool. And then he's had a really, really weird season. He went out on loan to Stockport where he absolutely smashed it up to Christmas, scoring, I think, 16 odd goals in 24 games. Some of them were just sensational finishes. And then he was withdrew from Stockport in the January and then sent out on loan to Hull, where he hasn't really played much. It's such a shame because his development was coming on so much. So interested to see what we do with Louis Barry in the summer. I think he probably goes on pre-season with Villa, another one. Does he have another loan? Is he getting to that point now where we have to make a really, really difficult decision on him? Given the goals he scored last season, could we get a premium for him this summer? Will it be a risk to let him go at 21? Possibly, because I think the lad's an absolute finisher, and I think it's such a tough call, this one, because it could be one that comes back and bites us on the arse if we let him go and he goes on and has a brilliant spell somewhere else and then gets picked up by a Premier League club again. I just don't know. I think I've just got to trust the manager on this one. It's very interesting. Right. Loan players that went out last year. What do we do with all these? Let's just move through this. Buendia went to Leverkusen, didn't play a lot. I think he leaves. I think we're in around £15 million for him. He's had good spells at Villa, but has he ever really fulfilled his obvious potential at Villa? No, I don't think he has, if I'm brutally honest. So I think it's time Emi Buendia was allowed to go and play elsewhere. And if we can get around 15 to 20 for him, I think I'd be happy with that. Ealing Jr. came in as part of the Luis deal last summer, has had a couple of loans, ended at Middlesbrough, did okay at Middlesbrough, I think. I think he's another player that potentially will go out on loan again next year, unless we get a decent offer for him. I think there's potentially could get moved on. Kosta Nedeljkovic, another one that I really liked when we came in, but he was allowed to go out on loan. He went to Leipzig, and weirdly, Gertruda, who we were linked with last year, the right back for Leipzig, he ousted him towards the end of the season and started playing ahead of him. So I don't know. You know, we've got Cash, we've got Garcia, we've got Tristan Rowe, who I really rate. Nedeljkovic, I think he's probably another one we let go now. Try and get a profit on him for what we paid, and then let him go and have his career. He's only young. 19 still. I don't know. Another interesting one. It just shows the complexities of these windows. We're carrying so many players. I don't know. Another one interesting. Enzo Barrenechea. Right. We've had some fantastic reports back from Valencia. Plays in the defensive midfield role. I quite liked him when I saw him last summer playing for us in pre-season, and then he was let go on loan. He's just been called up to the Argentinian full international team. I would like to see him come back and be integrated and be a part of the squad. And if he doesn't make an impact by Christmas, then potentially go back out on loan or be sold in the January window. But I think we need to see a bit more of him to make sure we don't make a mistake. At 24, he really does need to start pushing our first team if he's going to make himself a career at Villa. Played a lot of Valencia, obviously a talented footballer. Is he good enough to get ahead of Kamara and Tielemans? Probably not, but I think he would add depth to us, especially if we do lose a player like Lamar Bogard for a fee. He could come in and pick up that position within the squad. Alex Moreno, I think he gets sold or released. Felipe Coutinho, still on the books, got a year left on his contract. He has to go, doesn't he? I was over the moon when we saw Coutinho. I think not only, yes, I know it's been a huge waste of money, and that's a very, very big shame. But I think when we signed Coutinho, we broke our glass ceiling, and players started looking at us a bit differently and thinking, well, if he's going there, I think it's a serious destination to go and play football. So in that respect, I think it was an important signing for the club. But as a value for money signing, not really. You know, 2 or 3 absolutely outstanding performances, but that's not enough to say it was a good signing. Been out on loan. I think we have to let him go, and probably on a free transfer. Hopefully he can find somewhere he can go and finish his career. Still only 32, so maybe he could go back to Brazil and play out his career there. Dendoncker, another one. I think he just gets released. Year left on his contract, probably a free transfer if someone wants to pick up his wages. Kessler Hayden, oh my goodness. Right back seems to be where everything is, doesn't it? Absolutely brilliant loan at Preston. Superb, outstanding, really, really good. I think it's... What do we do with Kessler Hayden? We are stacked. Right backs the more I think about it. Nedeljkovic, Kessler Hayden, Tristan Rowe, Matty Cash, Andreas Garcia. There's going to be a lot of scratching of heads over our right back situation this summer. Would we get a decent price for Kessler Hayden? Again, at 22, are we making a mistake letting him go? I think he'll come back, probably go on pre-season, and a decision will be made after that. Lewis Dobbin, part of this strange deal with Everton last year with Irabunum. I haven't seen enough of him this season. Don't think he's pulled up a load of trees. I think it's just move him on. If we can get anywhere near what we paid for him, then so be it. Joe Gauci, goalkeeper, went out on loan to Barnsley. Haven't tracked much what he's been doing, if I'm brutally honest. No point in lying. So we'll see what happens with him. I think we're going to have to bring in a keeper, depending on, well, there's also Philip Marshall as well, or is Oliver Zeke. Are any of those 3 capable of becoming back up to, hopefully, the retained Emi Martinez? Not sure. I think we probably will go out and buy a keeper, if I'm honest. Hopefully we don't have to go and buy 2 because Martinez will stay. But that is my thoughts on the squad. It's a minefield, isn't it? Would you like to decide on what to do with all those players and then come up with a squad capable of competing at the top end again? I'm not sure I would, to be honest, but I'm sure there's a plan in place and I'm sure they'll know exactly what they need to do. So that's enough of that section of the show. Join me in a second where the drone is back and the warehouse project is definitely coming along, and we will talk through the new things that have appeared over the last few weeks. So join me in a second. So welcome back. Yes, I had the drone out and we have got an update on the warehouse project. I know everybody's loving these updates and hopefully I can keep doing them and give everybody that doesn't get a chance to see it the improvements and how it's coming on over the next few weeks and months. And when the North Stand starts, I will also be trying to bring updates on that progress as it goes on. So let's bring it up and show you what I saw yesterday. So I'll try and keep pausing it. So if we go back to the start, so if we can see here, the entrance way is being formed now at the front. You can see the big gap in the middle. Here will be the entrance hall. As we move it on, we'll be able to see that they've started putting the roof back on the front section of the new warehouse project. We'll see that a bit better in a minute when I zoom in. And then the back main hall area now is definitely coming on quite a lot. They have put the wall in now at the back, and the area of that back huge hall area where the main concerts and shows and everything is going to be is quite a big area. And I think you're going to see a flat roof between the two structures there. The one at the backs on the right-hand side of the picture and the one that's starting to be built on the left. That's going to create that area in the middle with a roof across the middle, across the top of that, where the big area will be for people to congregate. I presume we're going to have big screens on that back wall as well. So I do go a bit closer in a second. So we'll just wait for that to happen. What I do like about this is the way we have retained the outside wall on this, because it gives it such, it gives it that authenticity, doesn't it? And we love the old brickwork at Villa, and I think it was really nice to keep all that retaining wall there and just build within it, which I think is a fantastic way to do it. It would have been very easy just to knock the whole thing down, but I think to utilise that old building in such a historic way, I think it's fantastic. As you can see there, look, the roof starting to be put back on. I think you've seen the V-shaped roof there. It's going to go up to that structure here, where the start of the back area will begin when you walk through. So I believe this front area here is where all the food and drink outlets and tables and chairs will be for people to sit. And then the back area is obviously the area where all the events are going to be held, concerts and maybe hopefully some comedy evenings. It's going to be a really, really good multi-use venue, to be honest. And I think it's a great addition to Villa Park. And on a match day, it's one of the things I'm really looking forward to. You get there early on a match day and get in there, and you're going to have 2,000-3,000 Villa fans in there. Maybe get there early, watch the early game if it's a 3 o'clock kickoff at Villa and there's a 12 o'clock game on. But it's going to be absolutely magnificent. There seems to be potentially offices maybe going in behind there as well, because there's a bit of a gap in that area. But yeah, it's definitely coming on. There's definitely a lot of work there being done since the last time I did this. I think the front bit is probably where the most of the work's been done. I think over the next month or two, we're going to see it absolutely flying along and the roof start to go on properly. Once this structure in the middle is done, I think that goes most of the way across as well, which will leave a walkway through the middle of that into the back area. We've seen this slight extension at the front there. If you see that we've moved it out a bit as well to allow a little bit more room in that front area. But yeah, it is a big, big area. Until you're sort of up and around it, you don't realise how big it is. But all that front bit as well that used to be, you used to have to walk up. I think they've flattened quite a lot of that now. So it'll be very much open and allows everybody to sort of mingle in and around it as well. And it'll be great in the winter time as well when you think about it. You know, we've got nowhere really to hang about. You have to sort of get there and get straight into the ground, but there's going to be such a big area to sit in and around. It'll be great. So yeah, that's that. And then I had a quick flight over to the north stand roof to have a look to see whether much work had been done there. They had some kids playing on the pitch. I think they were teenagers and adults, to be honest, playing on the pitch, a little six-a-sides. So we go across now. I think I'll come round now, and you can see that the top of the roof has literally been taken apart, and there's only the base structure now left on that top, and that pillar there, sort of on the left-hand side of the picture. I'll come left now. You see that pillar there? A lot of that cladding has come off now as well on that structure. Most of the cladding has come off on the sides of the north stand roof as well. It was really, really windy, so I apologise if you're getting a bit. I'll pause it there. It was really windy when I did this, so the drone was a little bit flying around all over the place. But yeah, now basically we've gone down to the base structure now of the north stand. So you can see, if I bring up, I'll just grab a couple of pictures. Hold on a sec. Yeah, so you can see this. If I bring this picture up here, so you can see that the existing north stand's on the top there. And the grey here is the existing north stand upper terrace seating. So the claret around it is the new seating area. So the bottom is going to be brought more upright because it's a bit flat, the top. The bottom tier of the north stand currently was standing. So the angle it's at is the incorrect angle to get the best view from seating area. So that's going to be improved on the bottom tier. And the top tier is going to be retained, but they're going to be added to all the way around. So if you look at the roof structure, it's definitely majority of this is going to have to go all the way around it. So they're going to have to remove, if we go back to here, they're going to have to remove most of this roof. So all the two pillars either side, the whole of the roof structure's got to come off, and then they can extend. If I run it on a bit more, what I do is I go up and show you the top-down view of. There we go. I think I'll go up a little bit higher. I'll just stop it when it stops. So that's the corner of the right. So you can see that this area here is such a huge area to the back of the Doug Ellis stand. So the roof will come off here of the north stand, and then it's going to be extended all the way across here to give a lot more seating area. So it's going to be a fantastic addition to that area there. So it just gives you an idea of the work that's going to go on. And I think it's a really clever way of doing it as well. So that's it. That's the update on the warehouse project. A bit of work on the north stand, a bit of talk about the transfers and the playing side of things. I hope you've enjoyed it. I try to be as informative as I can. Thank you ever so much for watching. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. There are memberships available to help the channel grow. But once again, I can't thank you enough for all your support so far. And I will speak to you all again soon. Up the Villa.